How am I gonna get in there? Is there like a path up through the rocks there? Garum, that's the name of it. I couldn't remember the name of the sauce.
Salve.
Some people have responded to it so far.
Greetings and salutations.
Apparently not everyone. Do I just buy it from him, or can I steal it from him still? There it is. I could just steal it and then
Hey,
make a break for
Virgil,
it.
how much would you want to make me a bow?
For the last time, Dacius, I'm not making you a bow.
But why?
You can make me a
You
bow.
know why.
But how am I going to defend myself against someone else with a weapon?
There are no other weapons in the city. We all went along with the magistrate's weapons ban, so it wouldn't be an issue.
That's why I've got to get in first before someone else beats me to it.
Any news about my secret admirer? Oh, that's all right. I'm sure it'll take time. Was there something else you wanted to talk about?
Can you make me a bow?
Well, I'm an architect. Or at least I was back in Rome. That's probably too grandiose a term to describe what I do here. Help out with repairs and try to stop old buildings from collapsing on people. That kind of thing. But you probably don't want to hear about the ingenious architecture or mysterious history of this place. Oh, I'm glad you asked. Some of these shrines were constructed hundreds of years ago, which means Romans have been arriving here for at least that long. But there's one thing that puzzles me. The oldest shrine in this avenue isn't Roman at all. It's Greek. Well, yes, that could be the reason.
There's a time loop, and I'm trying to figure out who is
That's
going to be
where
responsible for
Greeks
breaking the
living
golden
and
rule.
worshipping here before the Romans arrived. Which begs the interesting question, who really built this place? And could it be far older than any of us imagine? If only there was a way we could talk to the people who came here before us.
All of these people actually came from different
Stories they
places, and
could
they kind of
tell.
assimilated in here.
Gladly. Personally, my favorite thing about this place is the aqueducts. Those series of adjoining arches. They're an ingenious feat of Roman engineering with a very practical purpose. They take fresh water coming from outside the city and distribute it all across the chasm. It's funneled below the palace and into a cistern beneath the great temple. Some of it flows down into another cistern beneath the villas, and the rest is funneled to the shrine of Proserpina, where it fills the lake and allows us to fish and farm. Hey, not so loud. Just talking about that could anger the gods for all we know. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you'd have to find a way inside somehow. Just, please, try to be a bit more discreet about it. You mean the Great Temple? This one's a bit of a mystery. Given the way it's positioned so prominently, looking down on us, it's clear that whoever built it felt it was the most important temple in the city. Unfortunately, someone else went out of their way to keep its purpose a mystery. You see, usually a temple is dedicated to a particular god, like Proserpina or Diana or Apollo. Usually, that god is obvious. But in this case, it's unknown. There's an obelisk out the front, which probably used to bear the name of this unknown god. But it appears some barbarian defaced it. And of course we can't get inside because it's locked up tighter than the Temple of Saturn in Rome. And that contains the treasury. So we're all left wondering, which god is that temple dedicated to? And could it be the one responsible for the Golden Rule? Unless somebody figures out a way inside, I suppose we'll never know. Of course. Well, Malleolus is talking about loosening some of the restrictions in this place. And while it's all a bit vague, at least he has a vision. My vote isn't for sale, if that's what you're asking. Nice to...
So he could potentially make me a bow, and I need to have a bow made, it sounds like.
Any news about... Oh, some people... I mean, once you've been here long enough, you'll notice people doing things that just seem so wrong to you. But this so-called god doesn't seem to care. Which means one of two things. Either you don't know the difference between right and wrong, or this unknown god doesn't. And I'm pretty sure I know the difference. Do you? Good. Then I hope you'll agree that there are only two ways of dealing with unfair rulers. The first is to leave. The second is to remove the ruler from power. And it seems leaving may not be an option. Good question. It's best if I say no more, but I hope you'll give it some thought. Some people, I mean, which, and I'm... Good, the first... Perhaps not. It's best if I say no more, but... Nice to talk to...
The faces in this are so incredibly expressive. I just can't get over how good they all look. Like, I mean, really. I know that they're not, like,
This area
necessarily
is private. Please leave.
super lifelike, but... Wait, that wasn't... Oh,
The
that was...
many shall suffer for the sins of the one.
For a moment there, it was unclear to me whether or not that was going to be considered against the rules. I wanted to see if that would be unlocked at this point. Yeah, this started as a Skyrim mod as far as I understand. I mean, it was, I just don't know the extent to which it was.
Salve. God, but you live...
Sorry, Galerius, I know more than you. So I did get the Sylphan resin.
Name's Rufius. If I did, do you think we... I'll tell you this much. I hate the fact that my survival depends on the common sense of other people. Ah, then you know what I'm talking about. I mean, all these people just bumble along like nothing's wrong. Well, we're one bad decision away from being wiped out. Like the last lot of people who lived here. Seems like I'm the only one ready for what's coming. Whatever that is. And when it hits, it's everyone for themselves. You've been warned. I don't know. But did you ever get the feeling some of these statues are watching us when we're not looking? Like they're waiting for something. I don't like it. Of course I am. Whatever.
Yeah, so do a lot of people.
What are you doing in here? Can't she needs the resin of a plant called... What? Quick, give it here. Yulia, you need to swallow this. Here, let me help you. Hopefully in a moment she should be able to breathe normally. That was extraordinary. How did you know she needed this exact thing and at this exact moment? Are you some kind of oracle? Look, if you don't want to tell me, I won't look a gift horse in the mouth. But no matter. That was like the gods hearing my prayers and intervening. You just saved a person's life, and you should be proud of yourself. She might even be able to thank you herself in a few moments. And maybe she can tell us who poisoned her, and who she meant when she was muttering about that snake's cruel black eyes. In the meantime, I'm happy to help you with whatever it is you need. That's a shame. Thanks again.
Oh, it's you. Sorry, I'm still a bit out of it. But thanks for trying to help me, I suppose. Was there something you wanted? Lucretia says I'm supposed to rest. As much as I'm grateful that you tried to help me, it's just not safe for me to talk about it. Please, no more questions. The golden rule. That's the least of my worries. The gods may be cruel, but Malleolus and Claudia are far crueler. Please, just leave me alone. I don't want to talk about it. Persistent as Nemesis, aren't you? I can tell you, but it's a long saga. All right. I'd been here about a week. When it dawned on me I'd be trapped here
water?
for the rest of my life. I could hardly breathe, and I knew I had to get out somehow. So when my new friend Aurelia offered me a secret way out, I would have done anything. And then I learned her asking
Everyone
price.
wants 1,000 denarii.
1,000 denarii. She was supposed to be my friend. I told her it would take me years to save up that much. So she suggested I take out a loan from Malleolus. And I did. I'm not proud of it, but yes, I was surprised he agreed to it, to be honest. I was so happy to have the money I didn't question it. I had to sign an agreement saying I'd work off the debt over 30 years. But I figured I'd be out of here so soon it wouldn't matter. I paid
Damn, I made that
Aurelia,
money in like,
and
what,
she gave me
3.5
her
hours.
so-called way out. Do you want to know what it was? You figured it out already. I wish I'd been so astute. Drink this, she said, and you'll be out of here in no time. Of course, I demanded my money back, but she refused. She pointed to a sign on her tavern saying, "Let the buyer beware." Then she just looked at me with those cruel black eyes and she laughed. She immediately told Malleolus I'd tried to escape without paying him back. Only, he didn't seem upset or surprised at all. In fact, he just thanked her. And that's when I realized the two of them had planned the whole thing from the beginning. That's what I said to the magistrate. I went to Sentius and begged for help, but he said the law was clear. I'd signed over my labor for 30 years and there was nothing he could do. I thought about resisting too. But Malleolus said if I didn't submit, I'd break the golden rule. And I couldn't be responsible for all those deaths, so he locked me in his villa. Confiscated everything I owned as collateral, and made me wear immodest, humiliating outfits while I worked day in, day out. His wife Claudia was just as bad. She sent me to work on an endless stream of futile, demeaning tasks. I'd be on my hands and knees, scrubbing the floor clean for hours, only for her to pour slop on it and hiss, "You missed a spot." Those two took everything from me. But they forgot to confiscate one thing. My hemlock. I just wanted it to be over. But it seems I messed that up too. Should have drunk all of it.
Fuck you, me.
I brought it on myself. I trusted one of the most callous human beings I've ever met, and tried to swindle the other. I don't know how I could have been so stupid. When I've recovered, I expect their thug Domitius will come for me. He'll escort me back to their villa, and I'll be right back where I started. Only this time, I won't be able to lull myself to sleep at night with the thought of a permanent solution. Honestly, it would have been better if the poison had been allowed to run its course. I doubt it. It seems this is the fate the gods have chosen for me, for trying to escape. At least until someone breaks the golden rule. Huh. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad. A lot. But it doesn't matter. I made a suicide pact with Ulpius last night. He's in exactly the same position as I am. Malleolus and Aurelius set the same trap for him a month after they did it to me. He and I are in this together. He's probably already thrown himself from the bluff into Malleolus's villa by now. If so, I'd never be able to live with myself, knowing I broke my promise to him. I doubt you could make it up to the bluff in time. I don't know who you are, or why you seem so determined to help me, but... thank you.
He's up there right now, okay. I don't know if I can get to him in time, but we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if I have to get to him at the beginning of the time loop. Oh, he's walking. I can see him.
Salve, friend.
Isn't a
I'm
great
Octavia.
moment.
Welcome to life under the golden rule. It's a ghastly thing, is it not? How are you faring so far? All right, well, it was lovely to meet you. I look forward to getting to know you better over the coming months. And if you ever...
I can't believe this is how it ends.
Oh no. No. No, 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 no. Ulpius, what are you doing? Get back from there. If you lose your balance, you'll fall.
That's the idea.
What? Why? Why would you want that?
Why do you think I'm stuck for the rest of my life working for a man who treats me like an animal?
I know things are hard for you right now. They're hard for all of us. We're all in this together, Ulpius. Please just think this through. If you do this, it could be the sin that seals all of our fates. Is that what you want?
I'm sorry, but I just don't care anymore.
Please, Ulpius.
I get that.
Help him. If he goes through with it, it could be the end for us all. I don't know what to do. I've never had to deal with this sort of thing. Please, you need to talk to him.
That's what I was doing.
Thank you. And please, choose your words carefully.
Go on then. I'm sorry. That's not funny at all. But, like, the fact it presented to me at that exact moment sucks ass.
Let me guess. You're going to lecture me on how suicide is a crime against the Empire. You're not going to trick me. I'm no coward. I intend to go through with it. Like what? I'm stuck slaving away for that culus cumulatis for the rest of my life. What do I have to live for? You're just saying that to buy time. You must think I'm an idiot. I'm out. Wherever you are, Scintilla, my love. I'm sorry.
Ulpius, no!
Okay, I see.
I can't believe he went through with it. Oh Lord. poor lamb.
So through different time loops, I have to gain enough knowledge about him to figure out how to talk him out of it.
That was not your fault. There's no way you could have given him what he wanted, moments after you arrived. Well, I suppose it means suicide isn't a sin under the Golden Rule. So I guess that means whichever god is responsible for it, it isn't mine. I'll have to let everyone know what happened. And I guess Malleolus will have to clean up the mess in his villa. It's of his own making, after all. And I'd best pray for poor Ulpius.
True. Yep, I can hear you.
I hope you're taking care of yourself.
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I hope you're coping. Please keep that to yourself. I know you're not from around here, but things are very difficult for us right now. There was a terrible fire in Rome last year, and our emperor decided to make us his scapegoats. There were executions. It was horrible. Oh, thank you. You have no idea how much I appreciate that. Here, in this place, the magistrate has me earning my keep by cleaning and pruning the gardens. It's not quite how I expected my life to go. I used to live in a lovely villa on the banks of the Tiber. I was even betrothed to a handsome young man from a prominent family. But long hours of menial labor for the good of the community has its own charms too, I suppose. Oh, much the same way as many of the others. When the fires came to Rome 7 months ago, my family and I fled for the Tiber, hoping to escape on a barge. We were among the fortunate ones with enough coins for passage, but unfortunately, there were a lot of desperate people, and they boarded before we could depart. A scuffle broke out, and I was pushed overboard. The last thing I remember was the water, rising up to hit my cheekbone. I woke up by the river, near that shrine, and stumbled across this place. Oh, that's all right. I'm sure it's all part of God's plan for me. Oh yes, of course. A slip of the tongue. If you like. Oh, so soon? Well, be gentle on yourself. We're all dealing with a tragic loss today.
I already saved one life, alright? Two's asking a bit much from just one person.
Are they? A new face, are they? Interesting. I'm not sure why you're telling me, but you've come to the right person. Yes, I suppose that could be something. But then most of us do tend to carry coins on our person, don't we? What else? Yes, I understand many of our friends were carried here by a river current. What else? That's true. I know I wasn't entirely sure how I wound up here. It's as I feared. I think I understand what poor Livia has been going through. Let me ask you this. Did you happen to encounter a stranger in the forest before you arrived here? And did you happen to catch her name? I see. And was this Karen, by any chance, wearing a hood? Because I've seen her before. There's something I think you should see. I think you'd better follow me to the baths.
Ooh.
What? How could you know that? And why are you talking to me instead of doing something about it? Please, go and stop him, and come back to me once we're no longer in danger.
All right. Gotta neutralize the armed man. Making bank though. Something's going on inside that house. Looks like blood or grape juice. Those are the only two options, all humor. Does he? That's weird. He shouldn't do that.
Help! A man, you have to do. Thank you. I have to hide.
What?
Oh. Seems like a great way to fall to my death.
You carry the gift of Prometheus in your hand. Remarkable. Welcome, welcome. May I ask your name? It is best you do not know my name, for merely to speak of my existence in the city above could bring destruction on you all. Tell me, what brings you all the way down here? Then perhaps the fates brought you here to learn the secrets of this place. I will tell you everything I know, but first, a request. I have been living down here alone for many years, with nobody to talk to but myself. The one thing I long for above all else before I die is a good philosophical argument with somebody astute. I'm hoping that person is you. Let us find out with this simple question. Have you deduced the name of the god responsible for the Golden Rule? You have much to learn. It's best if you figure it out on your own. Come back once you've made progress. Then you should speak with your contemporaries in the city above. Ask them about their stories and see if you detect a pattern of some sort. It is best if you come to this realization for yourself. You would never believe me if I told you.
Well, nothing behind the video game waterfall. You hate to see it.
You carry the gift of Prometheus in your hand.
Yeah, we talked about that already.
Remarkable.
Yeah, I'm pretty sick. I'm sick as fuck. So that's where I need to go once I finally figure out who's responsible for the Golden Rule. The loads are certainly not short, I will say that. Granted, I'm not playing this on a solid-state drive, I'm playing this on just a normal platter disk drive, but they are kind of brutal. Who's she?
Ah, a fellow traveler from a... My friend, your words intrigue me more and more.
For the last time, Daisy.
I hope that our...
Do I know a Greek person?
Feeling all right? That's a...
Shh, I'm hiding. Did you stop him? What are you waiting for?
Inspiration.
Wonder how much one of these statues is worth on the outside.
Do I need enough information to neutralize him just by talking to him? Because...
Stop right there. I'm looking for Tiberius Quinctius Crispus, otherwise known as Quinctius. Do you know where he is? Thank you. For your service to the Empire,
I win.
I'll let you live for now, but you'd best make sure our paths don't cross again.
Is this a sin? No. Absolutely not. I just want to watch the fun happen. I'm very excited. Is it a sin to watch it happen? Almost certainly. But I'm very excited anyway. Yep, right in there is where he was. I saw him. If you look up, you'll see he's right on. Oh, he's coming at you.
Filthy, lying degenerate.
I'll just be taking this.
You took care of him? An accident? So, it's over? Oh God, that's such a relief. I really thought we were all going to die. I do have a question though. That shrine, the one I was going to hide in, did you know it was going to collapse?
Yep.
So you kind of murdered him then?
Oh,
the many shall suffer for the sins of the one.
Interesting. I actually didn't expect that to count. Sorry, I don't want you to think that I'm just stupid. I am stupid, but I don't want you to think I'm just stupid. There's also an element of kind of figuring out what counts. Is that coyote time for sinning? Yeah, kinda.
Salve, friend. Oh. Yulia. Oh. Alright, let me see. Stop Fabia. I'll go, but once I'm...
Alright, so I can send him to take care of the things that I know how to do. That's actually a cool mechanic that gets added.
Oh, you're here. And, there's a lot. Oh, I see. You prefer the... I take back what I... Let's just forget that ever happened.
Okay, so there's nothing I can say to her that's gonna... work
right.
aside from just, like, outright telling her I know that she's a huge piece of shit. Got it.
You, Tantalus, cannot catch the drops of water, and the tree you grasp at eludes you. Just as the ocean accepts the rivers of all the world, so this place accepts all the souls. But it does not notice the crowds that... The newly...
Alright, see ya. Can I get that arrow back, or is that it? Alright. Well, I know how to get more arrows. I'm not too worried about it. Damn, sucks to be you.
there. I'm sorry to trouble you, but I couldn't help but notice that fine bow you're carrying. No idea how you managed to get your hands on it, especially in the light of our dear old magistrate's ban, but I'm impressed.
Chrissy D, thanks so much for
before
the
you ask,
resub.
No, I wouldn't dream of trying to buy it from you. I have no use for a wooden bow myself. But I would like to propose a joint business venture of sorts. Tell me, do you have any idea how people here end up as golden statues? And here I was thinking I was the only one to figure it out. In any case, supposedly 1 or 2 of those arrows is enough to turn a full-grown man into gold. Now, of course, that is a travesty, a terrible, horrible waste of human life which has to be stopped. And yet, on the other hand, I can't help but think of a tale told by that Greek fella Aesop, the goose that laid the golden egg. With the ability to transmute organic matter into gold, one could create infinite wealth. Use your imagination. Golden animals, insects, trees and plants. The Midas touch without the drawbacks. We are talking riches beyond imagining. And even if we were to split all those riches between the 2 of us, half of infinite wealth is still infinite. Interested?
Mathematicians have not proven that at this point in history. I'm just not loving the anachronism on display here.
Look, I might have skimmed over that one, but don't be so pedantic. Are you interested or not? Excellent. So the first question is, how do we get our hands on one of those golden bows? Now, I have a plan, but first, tell me, are you familiar with the story of the goddess Diana? No problem. Allow me to explain. Diana is our goddess of the hunt, the moon, and the underworld, depending on who you ask. The one thing priests and poets agree on is that she carried with her a golden bow and a quiver of golden arrows. And it just so happens that there is a shrine of Diana in this very forum, with a prominent statue of the goddess herself. And would you like to guess what she's holding in her hand? Precisely. I can't tell you how many hours I've spent in that temple staring at it, trying to figure out how to retrieve it without breaking you-know-what. Oh, gods, no. If you tried that, we'd all be dead within moments, I'm sure. No, here's what I propose. You give your bow to me, I cover it in a thin layer of gold leaf, and we create a replica of a golden bow. Then you enter the shrine, extinguish the braziers, and under cover of darkness, swap out the fake for the original. It's not theft exactly, it's more of a trade. But make no mistake, this is a dangerous path, and there's no way of knowing where it will lead. But in my experience, all the best adventures begin with a risky first step. Now, you must have questions. Ask away. Because the gods would see you, of course. Hence, my proposal. I'm more of an ideas man, whereas you're obviously the more resourceful and heroic type. I have complete confidence in you. When Prometheus stole fire from the gods and became a hero to all mankind, do you think he was worried about the danger? Only because he was silly enough to get caught. So, are you in, partner?
If you don't like action or horror elements, feel free to decline.
Wonderful. Now, this is a quality weapon.
So you gonna shoot me with an arrow?
A gold leaf bow. Now I've gone and unlocked the Shrine of Diana for you, so as quick as you can, head on inside. It's just at the end of the street on the left. May the gods not watch over you.
Cool.
The many shall suffer for the sins of the one.
Kill me.
Whoops. The door locking behind me was a problem. Extinguish the braziers. I did not follow the instructions.
Is that you, partner? Do you have the bow? Wonderful. Just go ahead and slide it under the door for me and I'll unlock it for you. A little bit slow, aren't you? Yes, I locked you in, and until you give me my bow, you're gonna stay in there, like Tantalus in Tartarus. No, technically, I never said that. I said, if we were to split all those riches between the two of us, infinite wealth is still infinite. It's hardly my fault if you can't tell the difference between a hypothetical and a promise, now is it? Oh, I do love a good loophole. You're just gonna have to take your chances, I'm afraid. The bow. Now. And don't even think about giving me the fake one. I'll recognise my own handiwork. I would reconsider my position quickly if I were you. I'm not sure if you noticed, but you're stuck in there with a hornet's nest, and they can be rather aggressive toward intruders. You know, some say it takes 27 hornet stings to kill a man. But I always wondered how anyone could have known that. Let's find out if they were right, shall we?
Is there another way out? I think this is where I'm going to start encountering those monsters. There's some reason I can't just go through the water? Oh, but I can't get out the other side.
My beloved Galatea, I write this so that one day, when we're finally together, you will understand what I've done and why I had to do it. The others will call me mad or a monster, but I don't care what they think. Everything I'm doing here, I'm doing for you. I'll start at the beginning. Soon after my arrival here, as I walked down a corridor lined with golden statues, I thought I heard a whisper behind me. A rasp of air, as if vocal cords of metal strained to say a word or two. I tried to dismiss the idea, tried to concentrate on my work as the city's medic, but that tortured whisper haunted me. Weeks later, in the hallway to the bathhouse, I heard it again and found myself drawn to the statue of a Roman woman wearing a stola. Her face was contorted with anguish and fear, and disturbingly, it was as if she was looking right at me. As I walked past her, I heard that strange whisper again, and turning back, I discovered that even though I had moved, she was still looking right into my soul. That was when the doorway. This was no statue. This was a woman trapped within that golden prison. Naturally, I told the others, but when I could not reproduce the results of my experiment, they would not believe me. But from that moment on, I knew the full horror of this place. Immobilized within these statues.
Sorry, it's a loading screen right now.
Are living human beings. It was that day, my love, that my heart broke.
So this has no effect on the statue. Is there anything else I can do other than this? I don't seem to have the tools necessary. Oh, hey. Can't seem to get over the wall here? Okay. Okay, so you can actually kill them.
You're not supposed to be here.
I'm gonna explore around a little bit, but I understand. I wasn't fast enough. Yeah, they're just described as peeled statues. Really? Is my aim that bad? Okay, it did not seem like in the past I was able to just, like it seemed like there was an arc to them, but they're at that great distance. Oh well. It's a learning process. I don't understand what it's asking me to do here. Okay. Yo, oh, author blues. Thank you so much.
My beloved Galatea, after I learned the terrible truth about the golden statues, I wandered the city as if in a nightmare. What must life be like for these poor souls, entombed in gold, but kept alive somehow? Trapped in their own personal Tartarus, consigned to eternal torment, too horrific for any sane mind to comprehend. I tried to offer them what small mercies I could. I began to talk to them, to keep them company. I'd imagine backstories for them, give them names, and tell them of the world, of the histories and stories I'd learned as a child. As the others became more concerned by my charity, I sought solitude from them, preferring the company of my tormented charges. Discovering a way into the abandoned palace, I began to spend my days walking its halls and sharing with its occupants ancient tales, my mind turning to those of Apollo and Daphne, Perseus and Medusa, and Pygmalion and Galatea. Pygmalion, the sculptor who fell in love with a beautiful statue, and who, praying to Aphrodite for aid, discovered that his beloved Galatea had come to life. It was then that I heard you whisper to me, Galatea. I know that is not a real name, just one I have borrowed from a story. But when I turned to look at you, I saw the most exquisitely beautiful woman I have ever known. Your face, forever frozen in a look of haunting sadness. Our meeting gave me new purpose, to free you from your golden prison, so that I might one day hear you speak, not just whisper your true name to me. So I gathered tools for the long and difficult task ahead, barred the doors to this place, and set to work.
Please. I just want to die. You.
Kill me.
Help us. Kill us. Help us. Kill us. Help us. Make it stop. Kill us.
Take a look at the scroll nearby.
My beloved Galatea, my attempts at freeing these souls from their golden prisons have not been going to plan. My first charge was a Greek woman who I called Iodame after the Athenian turned to stone by Medusa. Drilling through the gold that encased her, I was vindicated by the discovery that beneath half an inch of gold, which is so rigid it must be some kind of alloy, was living flesh. Unfortunately, this golden alloy seems to have fused with her skin, so removing it exposed the sinew and muscle beneath, and appeared to cause her great pain.
Jesus, that startled me.
First, I braced myself, expecting that inflicting such pain would break the golden rule, and yet, somehow, it did not. It seems whichever god is responsible for imprisoning these poor souls does not care about their suffering at all. They are forsaken. Undeterred, I pressed on, working late into the night, attempting to remove the golden layer that encased her as delicately as I could. Eventually, I was able to free most of her body, but when I released her from her restraints, her first act was to lunge for my throat, clawing at me with all her strength and those sharp metal talons. This was my thanks for trying to save her. Whatever possessed Iodami to attack, she was clearly not a suitable subject for my experiment, and I was forced to lock her inside an isolated wing of the palace and bar the door. As I continued working, I could hear her flailing and launching herself at the other side endlessly. Regrettably, my other experiments bore similar results, and after relocating a few times, most of the palace is now too dangerous to work in. Still, as much as my heart aches to know that you're suffering, I cannot risk attempting to ungild you yet. Not until I have perfected a method that will bring you back to me, whole in both mind and body, and ensuring your humanity is preserved. I promise you this. One day we will be together, even if I have to free every last stitch from this god's.
Christ. She's the one who's been whispering to me? Oh God.
And you must be the wretched snake who broke into my palace and disturbed my experiments. And, worst of all, look at what you made me do to her. This never would have happened if you just stayed away. You're going to pay for that.
I feel like if I draw the golden bow, I'm dead here, right?
And you think I care about that? I don't care what happens to me, as long as you get what you deserve. Liar! I locked and barred the gate. I left a message warning you all to leave me alone. I just wanted to do my experiments in peace, for her. And now look at her. You made me turn the most beautiful woman I've ever seen into this. Look at her. She's in agony. All I wanted was to spend my last moments with her, to see her beautiful face, to hear her speak freely, instead of in those cryptic whispers. But as soon as I began my work, she stopped whispering to me. And now I discover she started whispering to you instead. What's so special about you? What do you mean, the same voice? Yes. I remember when they used to whisper to me. They did sound similar. I just thought it was because all voices sound the same when they whisper. But now that I think about it, they were all benevolent and seemed to share a common knowledge. But if these bodies are mere conduits for that one voice, then this body is nobody. And everything I've done here was...
Yeah, crime.
Wait, I see what you're doing. You're trying to steal her away from me. Were you planning to wait until I'd done all the hard work, then swoop in? Is that it? Liar! You tried to steal her away from me, and now look what you made me do. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't peel you too.
No gold.
What? What are you talking about? Wait. So you're saying you weren't coming for us?
I really feel like it wants me to draw my bow.
So I did all this. I ruined her. For nothing. What have I done? Oh God, I feel sick. I can't bear the thought of her being like this. And in so much pain. It's the air coming into contact with her flesh. It's agonizing for them. But the only way to fix it will be to break the golden rule and let it run its course. At least that way she'd be golden again, and we'd be together. All it would take is one little cut. It's too late. There's nothing you can do. I have to do this. I'm sorry. What? How? Really? I'm not sure I believe you. But if you can undo this mess, I'll tell you what you need to know. But if you're lying to me, I'll break the golden rule and kill you and everyone else in this city. Understood? At least we'll all be golden together. You did it. You took away her pain. I don't know what to say. Thank you. Thank you. I swear I will never harm her again. I swear it. I'll stay here to keep her company. But these poor souls, what can be done for them? I've tried everything I can. I fear the only one capable of releasing them properly is whichever god doomed them in the first place. In any case, I must honor our bargain. The treatment for rheumatism is willow bark. I believe there's a pot of it already in the Shrine of Apollo. Now, please leave. The door here leads out onto the palace balcony. You should be able to make your way down from there. Go, and never return.
I feel like I need to come back here and talk to her at some point.
What? Are you still here?
Oh, that's a loading window? Okay. would you do this in the hallway? That's just a careless misuse of your space.
What? Are you
Yep, that's me, still here.
still here?
Feeling all right? You made it into the palace. I'm impressed. How is Nevia?
Golden.
Willowback. I should have known. It was under my nose the whole time. That's very helpful. Thank you. If this works, it should settle Rufius down some. I have some right here. Could you do me a favor and give him some of this? He'll just need to swallow a pinch of it. I'm hoping it will avert disaster. Thank you. That's a shame.
Want to go see my friend.
Oh, hello there, partner. I'm glad you're here. I think there might have been some confusion about my little practical joke earlier. You see, my plan was to give you a little fright. You know, like two friends joking around at the Saturnalia, and then, surprise, I'd open the door. But when I opened it, you were gone. Partner, there's no need for threats. Yeah, well, I don't have to listen to this. Get lost. Don't even talk to me.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna steal more of your shit. How about that? Actually, I won't right now because I don't want to reset.
Wonder how much one of these statues is worth on the outside.
A new face. Interesting. What else? What else? And I see. But don't follow too closely. We can't have people thinking we're bathing together.
You gave me the option to follow my guide when I was explicitly told not to follow her. I'll be right back. I gotta pee. I wonder if there was. So I was presented with the idea that I could decline the quest to get the golden bow. I wonder if none of that's necessary to like experience more or less the entirety of this game.
you're here. You were asking how I knew the young woman you met by the river was wearing a hood. Here, look down at the bottom of the baths. It's a little hard to make out in this light. If only we could see. Oh, what a marvelous lamp. But do you see it? Somebody waking up by a river in a forest to find a hooded figure with a coin. It's just as you described it, only your pronunciation is a little off. The name you heard wasn't Karen. It was C-H-A-R-O-N, as in Charon, the ferryman of the dead. Charon,
I kind of thought
who,
that's
in
where this
exchange
was
for the white
going.
coin, helps the souls of the newly deceased cross the Styx, the river that separates the land of the living from the land of the dead.
When I dragged you out of the river, I thought you were never gonna wake up. I checked your pockets for ID, but all I found was some loose change. Feels like I've spent my whole life in a dead-end job with an endless commute. Sorry if I sounded cagey, it's just that I don't always get the best reactions when I introduce myself. My name's Karen.
I'm so sorry, my friend. I'm so sorry. I take it you know what this means. I'm afraid so. It's all starting to make sense. All these people whose last memory was running from the fires toward the river. It seems none of them escaped with their lives after all. Perhaps we should be grateful they don't remember their final moments. It also tells us that the Golden Rule is the work of Pluto, the god of the underworld, and why his epithet has always been Father of Riches. I know it's a lot to take in, and you look as if you have questions, so I'll try to answer them if I can. That was my first thought too. In the old stories, the underworld was where the souls of the deceased were taken. But it was also possible for the living to reach it without dying, if they were particularly fearless. So I'm afraid I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting you're not from here. If you were Roman, or even Greek, you would know these stories. Each of them is slightly different, whether the storyteller was Plato, Homer, Virgil, or Ovid. But they always involved the souls of the dead meeting a grim ferryman named Charon on the bank of a river. It was said that he'd help the new arrival cross, only if they could pay him with a coin, an obol. That's why it was once our custom to bury our loved ones with a coin in their mouths. Charon's obol, we called it. Of course, an obol was a kind of Greek coin, because we inherited this knowledge from the Greeks. The only difference is that they spelled it with a kappa, which I suppose means K-H-A-R-O-N, is closer to the original spelling. To be fair, the ferryman isn't exactly as the poets described, and he, she, they seem to appear to different people in different guises. You say you saw a young woman named Karen with a hood, and I once heard Kabash mention a stranger in a ram headdress named Kerti, and Rufius described meeting a stranger named Kumut Tabal wearing an eagle headdress. But whatever form this stranger took, they were always wearing a hood of some sort, and their name always began with a K sound. I suspect the only way you'll solve this riddle is if your paths cross again. Good question. Let's see. In the stories, Charon would always require a coin as payment for passage across the river. But that never made any sense to me. What does an ancient immortal being need with coins? In our case, it seems Charon didn't take the coins we had. He or she merely checked we had one in our possession. So, maybe there's something special about the coins each of us had on us. That might explain why we wound up here, but so many others did not. No. I mean, I had my suspicions, especially after Livia's ramblings, but I would never have figured it out without your help, I promise you. Now that we know where we are, we have to figure out what to do about it, if we don't want to be cast into gold for eternity. We don't have much to go on, except the old stories. I remember 4 in particular about heroes in the underworld. Hercules, the demigod and son of Jupiter, Orpheus, a Thracian poet, Sisyphus, a king of Ephyra, and Aeneas, a Trojan hero. Hercules was able to leave the underworld because he cowed its god with his strength. Sisyphus and Orpheus both relied on their wits instead. They persuaded the goddess of the underworld, Proserpina, to help them escape. And finally, Aeneas was able to escape with the help of a spirit guide, who led him through a secret gate. So it seems you have two options: to confront the god of the underworld head-on, or find a way to escape with the help of Proserpina or some other guide. It's a reasonable question, but the problem is, this place is fairly well designed to keep us here. There's no way to climb up the shaft. And even if you could build a ladder big enough, just trying it would break the golden rule. We know that, thanks to the writings left behind by those who've tried. All Romans try to avoid saying it, and the reason is quite simple. He might hear us. You may refer to him as Pluto, if you wish, but you'll only be calling attention to yourself. Do so at your own peril. Shh! Is everyone so blunt where you're from?
Yes.
Oh. That option would be the boldest, but also the only way to learn the truth about the Golden Rule, and maybe even put an end to it. As I said, Hercules managed to overpower the god of the underworld, but he was a demigod. Forgive my candor, but you are no Hercules. Are you telling me that you can? I won't pretend to understand exactly what that means, but if that's true, then perhaps you stand a chance. So, if you want to confront him, I'll help you as much as I can. Who knows? Perhaps your name will be uttered in the same sentence as Hercules.
Water blues.
But first, you'd need an audience with you-know-who, and for that, you'll need to enter the great temple overlooking the city. The problem is, the door has been sealed shut for as long as I've lived here, and there doesn't even seem to be a keyhole. I suspect the answer lies in the desecrated obelisk in front of it. I'm not sure if you noticed, but there are 4 plaques missing from its base.
Hey, Carrie.
It looks as though somebody, or a series of somebodies, forcibly removed them, and in doing so, dishonored and angered our divine keeper. If you could recover and replace all 4 of those missing plaques, I imagine he might be willing to receive an audience again. It's the towering stone. You'll find them all over Rome. But of course they were looted from Egypt many years ago. It seems one of them made its way here too, although how is a mystery. However, this one is unusual in that each of the 4 sides is decorated in a different style: Roman, Greek, Egyptian, and another I don't recognize. That means you'll need to recover 4 different plaques.
I think the last one will be the Christian one.
Egyptian,
the
and a
Ictus.
4th, a mystery plaque. Good question. To answer that, we first need to ask who would have defaced the obelisk in the first place. It would have had the god's name engraved into it, so it may be that whoever desecrated it wanted that name to be forgotten. And there's only one group of people I know of who might want to do that. There's a cult in Rome that often argued there is only one true god. Theirs, of course. They've been known to start fires, as well as deface religious monuments whose existence challenged their beliefs. If I were you, I'd go looking for them. Of course, they've all been in hiding since the fire last year, so finding them won't be easy. But I did hear a rumor they have a secret shrine somewhere in the city. Perhaps, if you could find that, you might be able to recover the Roman plaque. I don't know. But perhaps you should begin your
thought
search
Georgius
with the
was the
local
Greek guy.
fellow,
Okay.
Georgius. His store is in the forum. Perhaps Kabash, our Egyptian resident, would be able to tell us. Unfortunately, he disappeared weeks ago. But I did hear Aurelia is peddling rumors about him at the tavern, so perhaps you could talk to her. or just take a look in his room. I'm afraid you're on your own with that one, but perhaps finding the other 3 will illuminate the way. As I mentioned, both Orpheus and Sisyphus were said to have persuaded
I won't be able to ask
Proserpina
Aurelius
to help
about
them escape,
Kabash?
and Aeneas was guided to the exit. The problem is, those are the stories of a poet, a self-aggrandizing king, and a brawler about their own heroic deeds, so they should be taken with a grain of salt. First, Proserpina. What we do know about her is, well, it's a grim tale. It's said the god of the underworld abducted and dragged her here against her will, forcing her into marriage. If the stories are true, then I suppose so. The problem is, how do we communicate with her without being noticed by her captor? Leaving that aside for a moment, there is also the possibility of a spirit guide. I don't suppose you've come across one of those in your travels? Truly? And you're only bringing this up now? Then again, I suppose you were worried I'd think you were as mad as Navia. Can you tell me more? Is it the same voice? What kinds of thing does it say? Fascinating. Perhaps she's a benevolent spirit. Or perhaps... perhaps...
We need more Zeus as a villain timelines because it's much more accurate.
If she has indeed been abducted, it would make sense for her to speak in cryptic whispers to avoid detection. Tell me, has she told you anything that might lead you to the way out? Oh, I see. Well, let me know if you hear anything that might be a thread through this labyrinth. All right. I would suggest not discussing this with anyone. The best we can do for them is to let them remain oblivious for as long as possible. As for Livia, it seems she's been shouldering the weight of this terrible secret all this time. Perhaps it would comfort her to know she's not alone. In any case, time is of the... May Fortuna guide you. Although you may not need her with Proserpina on your side.
Karen, you little shit. Lead against the current. Hey, Slowpoke.
Isn't the great temple majestic?
Yeah, it's sick.
Greetings, I'm Georgius. It gladdens me to see another foreigner in our midst. We must stick together, you and I. And in a city full of Romans, you are asking me? Because I am Greek. Let me tell you something about Greeks and Romans. My name is Georgios, yes. But the Romans, they do not care. They hear me say Georgios, and they think, ah, he must mean Georgius. Good Roman name. They do this all the time. They see us worshipping Zeus, they copy us, but call him Jupiter. They take Hades and call him Pluto, Persephone, Proserpina. I am flattered that they copy our ideas, but why must they change the names? Do they want credit for making it all up? Do they want to forget where it came from? At first, I pull my hair out. After a while, I give up, and I become Georgius the Roman. I accept the world is Roman now. Plus, I have no hair left to pull. But my point is this. If you want to know who stole an old Greek name, look no further than the sticky-fingered Romans. The plague you seek was pilfered from a collection of old Greek relics by none other than Dully. He cannot help it. Like a typical Roman, he likes shiny things, especially those that once belonged to my people. And besides, it makes him happy. So I say, let him keep it. I believe he still has it with him, in his cell, just opposite the Temple of Demeter. I hope that our paths
Wonder how much one of these statues is worth on the outside.
Isn't the great temple
hello?
majestic?
Hello. My friend Hannibal used to look after me. He said he always would. But then, he died. It was very sad. He said, if anything ever happened to him, I had to find something very precious hidden away. He gave me this key and made me promise to keep it safe until I found the treasure. But I couldn't find it. All I remember is he said, now nobody look. Do you like it? It's shiny, innit? It makes me happy just looking at it. But if I gave it to you, then I wouldn't have it anymore, and I'd be sad. Well, if you get me out of here, then I wouldn't need it anymore because I'd already be happy. Then you could have it, and you'd be happy too. Like Galerius. He's nice.
That's right, the doll.
I
Okay.
like Galerius. He made me a doll and everything. I don't think he likes me. Yeah, Galerius will let me out. Then you can have my plaque and everyone will be happy. Bye-bye.
Ave again. See you again.
Okay, so my clue was swim against the current. And I'm wondering where that hint applies. I guess it's the running water of the waterfall? That's the only place I see anything like that. So I need to find this last mystery tablet. I had assumed it would be the Christian one, but maybe it's not. Maybe there's something else.
Name's Rufius. But what business is that of yours? Willow bark. And this will work? Oh, thank God. Finally, some relief. This is what I've been praying for. Maybe God hasn't abandoned me after all. Thank you. I've been in a lot of pain lately. The rheumatism, these cursed statues always watching, and the crisis of faith. It was too much. Started messing with my head. This is exactly what I needed to set it straight again.
Willowbark's just aspirin.
I owe you one.
My man's out here just taking aspirin for rheumatism. Is that normal?
No idea what you're talking about. All right. But after this, we're square. I think I have seen that plaque. Sorry I lied. Can't be too careful these days. Head into the caves behind the theater. Turn right again. Oh, and here. You'll need this key.
My man's got the key to the Christian shrine.
You didn't get that from me. So you...
I want to go down and talk to that guy who wanted me to prove that I knew what wanted me to prove that I knew what God was responsible for the Golden Rule. So after I get done with this, I'm gonna go there. Okay, so now I know what the plaques look like, which feels like an important step. Yeah, there was someone down here praying. I think it was Olivia. Was that her name? She was the one who was up there when the guy jumped to his death. I think she was just in there praying. Octavia, thank you.
Come and join me by the fire. Welcome, welcome. May I ask your name? It's a sincere pleasure to meet you. Tell me, what brings you all the way down here? Ah, yes, that cursed thing. I know exactly where it is. I will tell you everything I know, but first, a request. I have been living down here alone for many years, with nobody to talk to but myself. The one thing I long for above all else before I die is a good philosophical argument with somebody astute. I'm hoping that person is you. Let us find out with this simple question. Have you deduced the name of the god responsible for the Golden Rule? Excellent. I see you are indeed quite astute. Very few come to that realization before their time in the sun is over. Now, will you join me in a friendly Socratic dialogue?
There can be no friendly Socratic dialogue.
Wonderful. Then let me begin with a question. Would you say you know the difference between right and wrong? And to what extent? In every situation? So, you're not entirely confident. That is quite sensible. Indeed, I'm reminded of something Socrates once said. To paraphrase, better to know that you know nothing than to know nothing and think that you know. It is because knowledgeable people have learned enough to know they know very little, in the broader scheme of things. You see, out there in the world, being uncertain about right and wrong was acceptable, because our mistakes rarely had consequences. So we would tell lies and bend rules and turn a blind eye and rationalize, and yet still find a way to think of ourselves as good people. But under the golden rule, morality matters. The slightest wrongdoing could result in a mass execution. So to navigate this maze, we would have to be certain about the difference between right and wrong. Wouldn't you agree? That is an excellent question, and it leads directly to my next line of inquiry. So let me ask you this. Is there one system of morality which is always perfectly correct, which you could follow in every situation and always do the right thing? How can that be? Since they all have differences, it follows that in some cases they would offer different conclusions about what is right and wrong. If there is a correct moral code, then wouldn't it follow that only one can be the correct one? Are you sure? Or is it possible that humans simply haven't figured out the right system yet? So is it up to each of us to decide what right and wrong mean to us individually? Or must we simply follow the laws and customs of whichever community we're in?
Wait, I want to change my answer.
So if a man feels that stoning to death his unfaithful wife is right, then is it right? I agree, but why? Didn't you just say right and wrong depends on the individual? I see. So you get to decide right from wrong, but people who see things differently are not allowed. What makes you special?
I'm having a terrible time with this dude. Was there a path that did not require me having a debate with the libertarian as a quest item?
Empathy, the emotion? Let me ask you this. Imagine you were forced to choose between the death of your beloved spouse and the death of two innocent strangers. Knowing there will be no legal consequences, who would you mark for death? A high-minded ideal, but I'm not sure I believe that.
Sure, because it's all bullshit.
Empathy, like a siren song calling us away from our true path, would lure us toward the greater evil. Can such a beguiling thing be a reliable cornerstone for anything, let alone the perfect moral code? My point is this. I don't think anyone alive truly knows any hard and fast rules about right and wrong. Surely you would agree there are circumstances where an exception may be made, such as where it is necessary for self-defense or to prevent a greater evil. For any rule, you can imagine there are countless situations in which that rule may be suspended, and those situations are impossible to codify. If there is one thing I have observed about rules, it is that virtuous people do not need them, and evil people will always find a way around them. And so we must accept our limitations, and the sad truth that no human society will ever achieve the utopia for which it strives. In mathematics, we would call it an asymptote, a line that can be approached but never reached.
What a fucking dweeb.
Because the only way to create a utopia is with the ever-present threat of force, such as the Golden Rule. This and no other is the root from which a tyrant springs when he first appears as a protector. And life under tyranny is no utopia at all.
Sure, why not?
I admit, I am talking a lot. Forgive me. I'm just excited to have company. In any case, thank you for humoring an old man. I would be happy to answer your questions.
I understand all of his points, and he's valid about some things. Anyway.
You seek the plaque bearing the Egyptian inscription. It is a cursed object, and I would be happy to give it to you, if Kabash had not already taken it. I will tell you, but you may find him hostile. To prepare for your encounter, there are certain things you must know. Very few know this, but before the Romans came to this city, it was once entirely Greek. The architecture, the temples, and the people. When the Romans came, in typical fashion, they claimed it as their own, built over everything that could be built over, and renamed the things that could not. Thus, the shrine of Persephone became the shrine of Proserpina. And when they found an obelisk bearing the name Hades, they tore it off and replaced it with Pluto instead. And the city's dwindling Greek residents, witnessing this compulsive Roman conquest, decided to preserve what they could of their heritage. They gathered their art and valuables, secreted them away through the Temple of Demeter, and hid them here, out of reach of the Romans. I'm getting to that. You see, it was among these old Greek relics that I found the thing you seek. An even older plaque bearing an Egyptian inscription. We had no idea until years later when the first of my friends began to die. As a result of their deaths, we began to dig catacombs branching off from this cavern to lay them to rest. We extended the tunnel so far that we accidentally discovered another, an even older tunnel, which somebody had gone to great lengths to keep hidden. Suddenly it made sense why there was an out-of-place Egyptian plaque among our people's possessions. You see, we proud Greeks had thought the Romans beasts for stealing and corrupting our heritage. But it turns out this game has been going on much longer than any of us imagined. I think it is best you head through the catacombs and follow Kabash's trail. I assure you it is not, although it will be dangerous. I urge you to exercise caution. Take this key. You'll need it to open the gate. You mean, how did I end up living alone in this cave with nothing but these relics of the past for company? It's a long story. I was a quarrelsome young man. At 19, I left Corinth for Rome to study rhetoric at one of her finest academies, so I could argue more forcefully. Back then, I used to...
He is a libertarian, god damn it.
...with everyone I could, and I was good. One night, I found myself in a tavern, in an argument with a drunken mercenary. It became heated, he drew a gladius, and I won the argument, but lost my life. I woke up on the banks of the Styx at a campfire opposite Karen. Of course, I tried to persuade her to let me return, but even with all my skill, I failed. I settled in, made friends, and learned what I could, quickly realizing our little community faced certain death under the Golden Rule. So I began looking for a place to hide underground. Fortunately, I found this place waiting for me. You see, I was not the first to take refuge here. I returned to my friends above, persuaded them to join me, and 12 of us descended for the last time to live out our days hidden from Hades' tyranny. They are one and the same. The Romans call him Pluto, but long before that, my people called him Hades. My generation was wiped out, turned to gold, many years ago. My friends and I were able to avoid the same fate by hiding down here. I think it's safest to assume that if I was to return, Hades would realize that his furies hadn't finished the job, and he'd send them after me again. I fear that if you were to utter my name in the city, even by mistake, that Hades would hear you and know I am still alive. I'm afraid I am the only one left. There were 12 of us in the beginning, but one by one, my friends passed away. Some from malnutrition, others from madness and despair. It has been lonely. Before my unexpected visit from Kabash some weeks ago, I'd not seen another person in many, many years. Living in darkness is not without its challenges. The first challenge is diet. Fortunately, I found that eating fresh fish provides most of the nutrients I need. And sometimes, when there are Greek people living up above, I surface at night and salvage the offerings they've left in the temple of Demeter. The greater challenge is the isolation, so I like to imagine arguments, where I argue both sides. But, like so many things in life, arguments are better with a partner. As you wish. I enjoyed our chat, but please, keep my presence here a secret, yes?
There should theoretically not be any peeled statues down here. Unless they're just fucking everywhere. It's really finding Kabash I'm anxious about, because he said that finding him, he would most certainly be hostile. I really don't want to get into a fight with him, because I'm not sure whether or not I'm free from the golden rule down here. He's not like the others, he doesn't move. Interesting. Let me look around here before I go down there. Okay. So this is my path forward. Senate. Oh, okay. Translates to the same thing, but in Egyptian this time. Ugh, almost ran off the edge there. They're like golden mummies instead. That's Kabash.
Stop! Do not come any closer. Who are you? I am Kabash. And let me guess. Another Greek or Roman come to loot and plunder the resting place of my ancestors, To what end? That is welcome news. You really are not Greek or Roman, are you? I was planning to return it myself, but for now, I must remain. Here, take it, and restore the honor of Osiris.
Interesting.
Now, as for the other plaque. Indeed, I have it right here. I stumbled across a collection of dusty curiosities while searching for a place to hide from the hungry children of Amit, and there it was. You may not. In fact, I am about to destroy it. Because it speaks a treacherous, blasphemous lie. I will tell you, but first, do you know what this place is? Indeed, and I see you know our history. This is the Duat. See what has become of it. I have been down here for weeks, piecing together its story, and here is what I have learned. As Egypt declined and the Greeks had their turn to flourish, their souls came here in great numbers, but instead of adopting our ways, they copied and corrupted them. When they found the obelisk bearing the name Osiris, the true god of the underworld, they desecrated it, removing his name and replacing it with Hades. Even the ferryman of the dead, known to my people long before as Kerti, they renamed to Keron. As if that desecration was not enough, they built over this place using it as the foundation for their own underworld, so that ours was forgotten. My only solace is that the Greeks then suffered the same fate when the Romans rose to power, renaming Hades to Pluto, and the cycle began anew. It is inscribed with a script I do not recognize, but it is ancient, almost as if it is older than the plaque bearing Osiris's name. But if that is so, it would imply the gods of Egypt are mere imitations too, copied and corrupted from an ancient people who prospered even before us, and that my people did to them what the Greeks and Romans did to us. But this I cannot accept. I sense a deception. Perhaps it is the work of Set, the usurper, seeking to undermine Osiris once more. You must think me a fool. This work of sacrilege must be destroyed, thrown into the black abyss below in Osiris's name. You are too late. It is done. You would plunge into the depths of the Duat with no way back up. Madness. If it will help you to see reason, then ask. I am from Rakotis, which you may know as Alexandria, the name of the city the Greeks built over it. I was a fisherman, like my father before me. Since the Romans had taken over from the Greeks, I took the opportunity to learn Latin and eventually traveled to Rome. When the fires broke out last year, I tried to help. I gathered terrified locals into my boat and led many of them to safety farther along the Tiber. On my 7th trip, a passenger demanded I wait for his brother. But we were full to almost sinking, and smoke was all around us. I told him his brother would have to save himself, and he tried to bribe me by placing a coin into my hand. When I refused, he drew a dagger and thrust it between my ribs. I awoke on the banks of the river to a stranger wearing a ram headdress. He said his name was Kirti, and at the time, I simply thought him odd. It did not dawn on me until much later that he was the Kirti, the ram-headed ferryman described in the Book of the Dead. I do not know. What could possibly lie beneath the underworld? Perhaps it is infinite darkness. Perhaps it is the lair of Amit, the devourer of souls. All I know is, it would be unwise to venture down there. Is everyone so contrary where you are from? Do not even consider it. Good. Be gone from this place. Wait. You are planning to go down there. I see it in your eyes. You would plunge into the depths of the Duat with no way back up. Madness. We shall see.
Sounds fun. Sumerian. I could have guessed that that was going to be what it was. Yeah, that kind of checks out. Someone trapped down there. I mean, they're likely dead too, but you know. Just don't say I don't care, you know? Got him. Oh, you see, that might have been a mistake. Is the water level going up? Oh, it does feel like the water level's going up, doesn't it? That's probably fine though, right? That's like normal.
When I told you that you would not find a way back up, that was not a prediction. That was a promise. You will die here. I disagree. I warned you against coming down here, against perpetuating this sacrilege, but you persisted. You have undermined and dishonored the true god of the underworld. How did you think this would end, if not with bloodshed? Very well, I will listen. But if I sense deception, or if you further insult my gods, I will carry out my threat. So tell me, why should I let you live after you salvaged this instrument of blasphemy? Why? To what end? But why? What business could you have with Osiris? Blasphemous fool! You have sealed your own fate. Ha, good. I welcome it. You see, the philosopher told me that each time it breaks, Osiris bellows with rage, and his voice shakes the very foundations of the earth. I can only hope one more tremor will lay waste to this fragile place once and for all, and you along with it.
The many shall suffer.
I'm not excited about this
for
outcome.
the sins of the one.
This is frankly not the outcome I was hoping for. Where'd the old man go? I'm just starting to think that there was not going to be a reasonable outcome for me negotiating with Kibosh. I feel like maybe he had settled on his decision beforehand. There's a loading screen, by the way. Please don't shoot me. Please don't shoot me. I can still survive this. I know I can. I do have the plate right now, yeah. The only thing I'm missing is the Greek plaque, I think. Salve, friend.
Salve, friend. I'll go, but once I'm done...
Okay. Alright, I'm gonna tell her she's a huge piece of shit.
Oh, you're here. And, there's a... How dare you? Get away from me, you pig.
She didn't seem to care for that, but...
Oh, do us all a favour and drink hemlock, cap at murder.
Nice.
Ixion turns. But it does. Say it. Speak its name. Then it is true. I was right. I thought I saw it, but when the rest of them could not, I kept thinking I must have gone insane. I had to tell myself it was true over and over again, until I wasn't sure if I was deceiving myself. I must apologize if my words seem cryptic. I'd found comfort in reciting the Metamorphoses by our great poet Ovid. He gives such an uncanny description of this place. I cannot help but wonder if he himself came here. Would you like to hear it? I will do my best to remember the relevant verse. There is a downward path, gloomy with fatal yew trees. It leads through dumb silence to the infernal regions. The sluggish Styx exhales vapor, and by that way, the shadows of the newly dead descend, entombed with full rites, and the ghosts of those, at last, given proper burial. The wide, thorny waste is cold and pallid, and the newly arrived shades are ignorant of the road that leads to the Stygian city, where Black Dis has his cruel palace. As the ocean accepts the rivers of all the world, so this place accepts all the souls, and is never too small for any populace, nor notices the crowds that come. There the bloodless shadows wander without flesh or bone. Some crowd the forum, some the house of the ruler of the depths. Others follow their trades, imitating their previous lives, and still others incur punishment. I hope I have done it justice, and now we share a secret. It's as if you've lifted a great burden from my shoulders. Thank you, friend. I think I should rest.
She's nice.
Salve again, friend. I went and did as you asked, and it worked. How is it possible that you've just arrived here and you already know everyone and exactly what's about to happen to them? You're toying with me, right? Wait, you're not kidding, are you? That's the only way you could have known. You're a bit like... Oh, what was his name? Sisyphus.
Bill Murray.
Yeah, that's the one. Old King Sisyphus. Sisyphus was a Greek king a long time ago. For daring to think he could outsmart the gods, he was given a terrible punishment. He was forced to push a great boulder up to the top of a hill. Only, just as it reached the top, it would roll all the way back down to the bottom, forcing him to start over and over and over again, for all eternity. Just like you. Actually, now that I think about it, there are a bunch of old stories about the gods punishing people by making them do the same futile task over and over. Tantalus was made to grasp at fruit on a tree he could never quite reach. The Bellides had to keep fetching water in a sieve. Oh, and Ixion was strapped to a wheel going round and round forever. But, on the bright side, at least you're not stuck in the underworld like they all were.
At least.
Anyway, I don't know which god you managed to upset to get yourself into this position, friend, but you seem all right to me. So, I'll tell you what. I'll keep doing whatever I can to help you. And you just focus on finding a way to break the cycle you're in. Oh, that's kind of you to say. Now, I'm going to keep your secret. Although, it's not as if I'll remember this next time we talk anyway, right? Oh, and if our conversations ever start to annoy you, just tell me you're busy. I know when I'm not wanted. May fortune smile on you, friend.
I haven't really done anything to progress the quest of handling the vote for a new magistrate.
A golden bow, just like Apollo. Feeling all right? That's a shame.
Hey!
What if I am?
You're not thinking about going into the cistern, are you?
Hey, you little fricker, shut up.
Well, it's your funeral.
I apologize for using such strong language in mixed company. Sorry. I put out lamp and she's like, "Are you for serious, my man?" Seems like the only way to make progress is up here. Oh God. Is this his wife he chained up here?
Juno, you're here. You have to help me escape
Monster?
before that monster comes back. I'm Scintilla.
Oh.
I found a way out through the gate of Horn, but it's locked. So I told him about it, and instead of helping me escape, he locked me up. He wants to keep us all here forever, or until we're turned to gold. He's a monster. You have to let me go so we can kill him and take his key. Sentius, my adoptive father. Furies help me. I'll castrate and crucify him. I don't know. He said the gods are on his side because they don't want us to escape either. Behind me, there's an aqueduct tunnel bringing water from outside the city, so it should lead us outside. The only problem is it's barred by a heavy locked gate, and he has the only key. I'm going to take that key from around his neck, even if it means cutting his throat to get it. I'm done caring about the golden rule. I just want out. Help me, and we can escape together. There won't be enough time. Just you and me. What do you say? Oh, thank you. Now follow. Wait. Did you hear that? He's here. He must be coming in through the door behind me. You distract him. Stay right here and keep him talking while I look for something I can use.
Hey!
With Scintilla. Where is she?
Hey,
So that is how it's going to be. Oh well, this doesn't change anything for me. It's a shame, really. If you'd just done what you were supposed to, you'd have been looping through time forever until you gave up and killed yourself. Just like that soft-hearted pleb Al. Come now. Surely you didn't think you were the only one here who remembered everything. You see, my connection to the portal somehow preserves my memories from one room to the next. Whether that was Proserpina's intention or a happy accident, I'll never know. But I'm surprised you hadn't noticed. Here I was thinking you're a little bit sharper than Al was. Or perhaps you're just more willing to break the rules.
Oops.
He was a moralistic fellow, never once compromised on his principles. And because of that fatal flaw, he relived this day many thousands of times before we finally had this conversation. I watched him come through the portal each time, always a little older, a little more disheveled, a little more haunting. And when he finally saw the futility of it all, as you're about to, it broke him. He drank a jug of wine, tied a noose around his neck, and took his own life, just before he was shot with a golden arrow. The next time I awoke, you showed up, but you've caught up to where he was so quickly.
Thanks, I'm a fast
I'd
learner.
preferred if you'd given me more time to enjoy the trappings of my success. How many extra days did you give me? Just the 6? Not a lot compared with Al, but I've seized every day, nonetheless. In any case,
Is that truly the amount of time that we've
except the path that
we've
Al
looped?
took, the path he wrote about on his tablet. What was it? Ah, yes. Better to end it all now than find out what awaits you beyond that portal. So, you discovered my secret. So what? What are you going to do about it? Of course. There's no way you could have succeeded. Every soul who has ever found themselves here has broken the golden rule eventually. It is inevitable. Man will always sin sooner or later. Any idiot could tell you this. But where others might see tragedy, I saw opportunity. As I told you the first time we met, I found a way to cheat death. By reliving the same day over and over again forever. And I will continue living long after your dust. Why? Isn't it obvious? Because I have grown attached to all this. My title, my beautiful villa, the sun on my face, the music of birds chirping. And as long as this day keeps repeating itself, I get to enjoy it all, over and over again, for eternity. Don't you see? I have found a way to prolong my life indefinitely, to cheat death. I have become, in effect, as immortal as the gods. Can you honestly say you would not wish the same for yourself? Do you really think you could take on a Decurion with that flimsy little bow? Who? Scintilla? Where is she?
I'm right here, Father.
The many shall suffer for the sins of the one.
Come on, we have to go. Hey, what's happening to you? That light, it's so bright.
I'm sorry?
Hi there. Gave me a bit of a fright. Thought I was in here alone. I'm Al. Well, here I am. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. Really? That's strange.
Yeah, bit of a
I was
weird
just
name.
reading an old tablet I found here. Well, trying. My Latin is kind of rusty, but the last entry mentioned someone with the same name. It described an event about 2,000 years ago. Someone with your name appeared in the city out of the shrine of Proserpina. Freed an imprisoned woman named Scintilla, who then murdered her captor, breaking some kind of ancient law. It said the attack caused golden statues to come alive, hunting down everyone in the city and turning them into gold. Apparently, the only person to survive was Scintilla. while the stranger disappeared in a flash of light. I didn't for one moment think it was, but the way you say that makes me wonder. I mean, how many people with that name could there be in this place? I don't understand how you could have been here 2,000 years ago. I'm sorry, come again?
Yeah, you probably didn't have to tell him that.
Let me see that. God, why does this writing look so familiar? I've spent a lifetime in this place going around and around in circles. This is disturbing, but I don't understand how I could have written it.
Yeah, you probably don't need to share all this with him.
I'm not following.
You just said you
So
didn't
you're
do
saying, because a man from 2,000 years ago is dead, he never created a time portal, so I never went through it, and that's why I don't remember any of this. I guess you saved my life then, as well as helping that poor woman to escape. That's a lot to take in. Maybe we can escape through the same aqueduct Centilla used, if we can find it. I'm gonna pause here for a moment and make sure nobody else has ever loaded into this temple. You go on ahead. I'll be there soon.
You're back! But you're alone. Does that mean you didn't find Al? Oh, what a relief. Thank you so much. I was beginning to think you'd both become trapped in there. Why don't you tell me what you discovered while we wait? Ah, I see. I thought you might. Well, now you know. I suppose you have questions. You can just call me Charon, if you like. I am sorry I was not completely honest with you when we first met. I do not enjoy deceiving people. Believe me, I do not. But I have learned, from 5,000 years of experience, that most people find comfort in familiarity, in gradual change, and coming to see the truth in their own time. That you died, of course. You were dead when I brought you here. My role, as the servant of the god of the underworld, has always been to assist the chosen to cross the threshold from the land of the living to the land of the dead. Usually, when people do not remember how they died, it is because they suffered a terrible trauma. Most souls would rather not remember. Ask yourself honestly, do you really want to know?
Hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah.
As you wish. You were murdered.
By Al?
You were exploring an old tomb when you discovered a cache of forgotten relics, including 2 silver coins of ancient origin. Unfortunately, as you emerged into daylight, you were set upon by 2 thieves. A nearby hiker saw the scuffle break out and leapt to your aid, trying to help you recover your bounty. You both fought bravely, but your assailants were armed, and you were not. There was nothing you or your ally could have done. He died instantly at the scene, and you followed a few hours later. That man's name was Al Worth. You were each in possession of a sacred coin, called Charon's Opal by some, and so it was my duty to bring you here. Perhaps you have heard the tales of the Greeks and Romans burying their dead with a coin in their mouths, to pay the ferryman for passage across the river. Well, those stories contained a seed of truth, but not any coin would do. A long time ago, my master created 1,000 silver coins and had me distribute them across the world. My orders were simple. Whenever a person died in possession of a coin, I was to locate them and ferry them here. That is a question you would have to ask him, if that were still possible, in light of the path you have chosen. I am just his servant, doing his bidding. Only now, I find myself bereft of purpose. You see, the coins on you and Al were the last of the 1,000 in existence. There is nobody else to ferry here, nobody to keep you company. After 5,000 years, the underworld has finally run its course.
Going out of business sale?
I see no point in keeping you here. But I have to ask one thing. That you keep this to yourself.
Look! Here comes Al now. Al! It's so good to see you. You were gone so long I thought I'd never see you again.
Kinda lost track of time in there. You wouldn't believe what we found. The ruins of a long-forgotten city. And there was a tablet describing an event 2,000 years ago. Supposedly, the city was destroyed when a woman murdered a tyrant with the help of, well, my new friend here. I know how crazy that sounds.
Maybe not that crazy. That woman. I don't suppose her name was... Scintilla?
How could you... What?
She left a tablet of her own. I stumbled across it while I was waiting here. I think she meant for you to read it. Here, take a look.
I don't
Okay.
know what became of you, or if you'll ever read this, but I want you to know that I will never forget you, or what you did for me. It pains me that so many dear friends were not so fortunate. Ulpius, Sentia, Lucretia, Horatius, Galerius, poor Dooley, and the others. But please understand, their blood is on my hands, not yours. I will live with the consequences of my actions, and all I can do is move forward, trying to show others the same compassion you showed me. I promise you that saving my life will not be for nothing. Scintilla.
Cool.
Sounds like you meant a lot to her. I'd love to hear your story, but first, you two look exhausted. Why don't you hop in my boat and rest while I ferry you back to civilization?
Sounds good to me.
And you? Are you ready to go home?
Yeah, let's go. Ending 2 of 4. That's sick. I think I was a lot closer to whatever the next ending was anyway, because I had recovered 3 of the tablets, so I don't think I'm that far off. Okay, can I just say that I've only played 6 hours of it right now, but this game's sick as hell. Like, just extremely good. I'm definitely gonna go for all the endings. Which is why I'd prefer if we don't speculate on what the other endings are. I'll play out the sort of intended path of confronting the god of the underworld as well, but there's still two paths that are maybe less obvious, I would say. It's based on a Skyrim mod, yes. There's a Skyrim mod called The Forgotten City that plays out incredibly similarly to this. This was an expansion on the idea. I've heard positive things about the mod. I may be willing to check it out. I think I have Skyrim on PC. I may be willing to boot up Skyrim at some point just to check out how this mod works. Is it that miserable getting Skyrim mods to work? Only if you want multiple. Got it. Yeah, I'll hit you up, Gilder. I know you got a lot of experience with getting them mods going. It's not on my short list, but, you know, considering how cool I think this game is, it might be worth investigating. I'm currently regretting my staunch belief that when you play a game on stream, that you have a responsibility to watch the credits. This is the first set of credits that's making me question that decision. Did I cut myself? I got like this big ass cut in my finger. Nah, I guess it's not that big. I guess I just like sliced the skin or something. I'm good.